such as accountability for each of the parties involved. And in order to optimize Okay. I just got a notice that for the last couple minutes, all of my comments have been muted. So I guess we'll go back and start at the beginning here. I apologize profusely for our technical difficulties here this evening. So let's talk about networking on steroids and how to utilize networking as a means for building and growing the cash flow of a business as well as the EBITDA or the free cash, the value of the enterprise from a merger and acquisition perspective. I am a fan of networking, so I want to make sure that I'm clear that I'm not in any way demeaning the concept of networking. I think it's a very important step in the right direction. I want to also say, however, that as a general rule, networking is less effective than strategic alliances because networking is less organized, less disciplined, and less accountable. And what I intend to do over the next hour or so is show you some alternatives to networking that are substantially more disciplined, organized, accountable, and effective in both getting into target markets and also servicing those target markets in a better and safer way. So we're not only talking about how to make money, we're also talking about how to do it in a way that actually is empowering and not disempowering. So we don't want to be losing money or be getting stuck in lawsuits every time we turn around. So we want to make sure that whatever it is we do is safe and helps us to grow our business in a really effective and meaningful way. So effective strategic alliances produce dynamic results because they begin with clarity in each of these areas. I've got a whole list of points that I want to make here, and again, the operative word is clarity. So if you're taking notes, please write that down. And this first bullet point is to look at it or perceive it from a client's view. So if I were thinking about entering into a strategic alliance with anybody on this webinar, the first thing I would want to know is from a client's perspective, what matters most about your business? And what I find with most business owners, executives, and salespeople, management people, etc., there's a lot of fumbling and stumbling for words when I ask them that question. So even if you as the owner have absolute clarity about what it is that matters most to the client about your business. In other words, what unmet needs or underserved needs are you meeting for that client in a way that is exceptional. And even if you have all of that nailed down, beautifully articulated, the fact of the matter is many of the people that work for you are probably not as articulate as they need to be. And then most of the people who are networking with you, they don't have those details nailed down with absolute clarity and articulated beautifully relative to their own businesses. And they certainly can't articulate your message as well as you can articulate your message, if you are in fact articulate at all. So in networking situations, people tend to work on their, quote, elevator speeches or 30-second messages. And one of the giveaways from today's webinar is that if you send us an email and request it, we will send you a workbook that I designed specifically related to creating a powerful, dynamic, magnetically attractive 30-second message for your business. And whatever your business is, you'll be able to utilize that content and go through this transformational exercise where you come out on the other end with a substantially better message about who you are and what you do in a way that is worded effectively so that clients will feel connected to it and feel like it actually matters to them. So that is a very important workbook, and I encourage all of you who want to move forward in this area to go ahead and procure a copy of that by sending us an email and requesting it. So the second bullet point here is, who are your ideal clients? So again, you may be very clear about who your ideal clients are, but the other people that you're networking with probably are not all that clear about exactly who they want to do business with in the future. People can typically tell you with clarity who their clients are today, and that can be interesting and helpful information. But the more important information is, who do you want to be doing business with tomorrow? What is your ideal client moving forward? Who are you going to be next? Who are you going to provide services or products to next? What does your business strategy look like in the next phase of your existence? And what are you going to do about that? How are you going to manifest that business vision and strategy into actual measurable cash flow and EBITDA? For those of you who have been through any of my courses on strategic alliances, you know that what I'm leading up to here is that even if you have all of these things crystal clear and totally nailed down, the other people, the other business people in your universe that can refer business to you, they do not have this stuff nailed down. And that is a major point of opportunity for you to connect with them and educate them and elevate them to a new level of awareness, consciousness, and state of being, so that they become substantially more effective in working with their clients. And thus, they become more effective at referring more business and opportunity flow to you. So what products or services do you provide that meet the client's unmet needs and or wants? One of my board members and I were talking about this concept several years ago, and he said to me, Bruce, you got to tell people this. People buy what they want, not necessarily what they need. And I have long found there to be a great amount of wisdom in that statement. You can have something that absolutely, positively has a dramatic, dynamic, improving effect in the life or the business of your client. But if your client doesn't know that they want it and they don't feel sort of an internal motivation to desire it, they're going to go buy something else with that money. And a big part of having an effective business model really is going to come down to making sure that you're not only meeting the needs of clients, but you're also addressing those needs in a way that is irresistible to the client. They need to feel connected to what the outcome is going to be. In what ways are you notably superior to competitors and or copycats? You know, in business, it can be said that there are very few true pioneers, and then there are legions of copycats. We see this everywhere. As soon as somebody comes out with something that is really amazing, a truly unique, meaning first of its kind, product or service, within a matter of, it could literally be hours in certain professions, but certainly within a matter of weeks or a few months, there are competitors that are going to spring up that are going to be directly competing with whatever it is you're doing. This is commonplace in the world today. So if you really are unique, meaning you're the first of its kind or you're the only one of its kind, how are you going to utilize that to your advantage? Now, if you're not unique, what are you going to do or come up with or introduce in the marketplace that is so interesting, so dynamic, and so compelling that people are going to choose you over the myriad of other providers? So that is an issue that each and every business needs to understand with great detail, and that needs to go directly into the messaging of the organization. Next, how can your clients differentiate between the benefits of working with you versus others? So even if they can see a clear contrast between a product, let's say, or a service per se, let's just use accounting services as an example. I don't know that there would be very many topics that would be more boring to a business owner than the idea of choosing an accounting firm. So let's use that one as an example, because that's going to be some really dry material, right? And no offense intended to the accountants who are listening in, but here's the thing. Accounting is accounting except for when it isn't. And this is where you get to step in and you make it about you versus other accountants. It's not about saying anything negative or anything bad about any of the other accountants. It's about positioning yourself in such an interesting and compelling way that the client is choosing you over everybody else. And if you send me an email and say, well, Bruce, that sounds interesting, but I'm with one of the, big four accounting firms, and, pretty much all the big four accounting firms are pretty much the same, or certainly that's how it's perceived by most business owners and boards of directors, etc. So what are we going to do? And then what I'm going to say to you is, well, I don't care about that. I want to focus on you. I want to know what you as an individual are going to do so that you get picked over the other individuals that are competing for that business. So see, on a macro level, you can say giant firm A and giant firm B are competing head-to-head. Well, you could argue that the top 4 or the top 6 firms are competing every single day, whether they acknowledge it or not. But when it comes right down to the bottom line, human beings do business with human beings. That means we do business with individuals. We pick individuals. We pick them based upon a variety of points of alignment, one of which clearly is trust, one of which clearly is having confidence in their capability to get the results we're looking for, but also has to do with things that are less common coming from CPAs. How about creative vision as an example? I don't ever once remember a single business owner or a board of directors complaining to me that their CPA firm was coming up with too many creative ideas and too many creative points of vision or too many creative solutions. In fact, what I get is complaints in exactly the opposite direction, such as CPAs typically are not providing any creative vision or not enough creative vision, and it looks like they're basically telling what you could have, would have, should have done last quarter or last year as opposed to looking forward. So one of the ways you could differentiate yourself from other accountants would be if you made yourself into a forward-looking creative thinker, a person of vision that brings this vision and perspective into the lives and businesses of the clients. Thus, you could create a gap between yourself and other accountants who are basically going in and pitching the nuts and bolts, the art and science of the mathematics of accounting, as opposed to that plus this X factor being your creative vision, your dynamic understanding of the client, etc. For more information on that, you might want to take a look at the webinar that we did last night. It was particularly geared towards advisors. But regardless of what business you're in, if you're manufacturing software or hardware or some kind of a widget, or you're in the heating, venting, and air conditioning business, I don't really care what it is. If you can really understand that at a certain level, much of what you do has been or will soon be commoditized. So even if you're truly unique and come up with something great and really altering the whole world, let's say the iPad as an example, or the iPhone as an example, that's all great and good that you can come up with that. But you know, the way the public thinks is, so what are you going to do next? You know, what's the next great thing that you're going to do? And a whole bunch of copycats are going to show up with whatever their version of the iPhone or the iPad is going to be. And most of what they're going to come up with isn't going to be necessarily that much better. So what are you going to do to make sure that you personally are going to prevail in any of the, quote, beauty contests, end quote, that are going to come up throughout the course of your business career? I have a very simple solution for winning beauty contest, and that is to win the contest before it even happens, thus preempting the need for the beauty contest. And if any of you would like to talk about that one-on-one with me, send me an email. I'd be happy to talk to you about it, because it's actually a section in a book that I'm writing on business strategy, so I'm building up sort of a library of examples and case studies on that. So feel free to contact me on that if you'd like some more information. So let's take a look at what it is you're doing right now. What are the most effective ways in which you currently connect with A-level clients? So if you said to me, Bruce, here's I'm putting on a luncheon, and I'm going to invite all the people that I network with really effectively, and by some miraculous point, they're all going to show up. They're actually all available on that day. No one's having a baby, and no one's on vacation, and no one's kid is graduating, and, you know, no one's got a parent that's dying or whatever. So they're all there. They all show up. I'm going to want to know what each and every one of them is currently doing, and what are the most effective ways, plural. They might have 4, 5, 6 different ways in which they currently connect with or attract or find clients. And part of what I'm looking for there is, are you chasing clients, or are clients magnetically attracted to you? So if we went through the necessary exercises with that entire group of people, here's what we would discover. There might be one person or one company represented in that meeting that is actually using the most dynamic and effective client attraction models and having success with them. You probably have a couple of other people that are attempting client attraction models, and they're not getting a lot of success. And then the majority of the people in the room are actually chasing after clients. Clearly, it is better to attract clients than it is to chase them. And if you doubt me on this, it's just a matter of human psychology. Think about it when, even if you're single now, it would play out. But when we were single and we wanted to connect with a significant other, if you started chasing after them, that was usually the least effective strategy. The most effective strategy is to attract people to you. They want to connect with you, and it's a natural fit, and there's an alignment. When you can do business that way or find a significant other that way, the probability of the relationship sticking and lasting and functioning at its highest potential level is greater than relationships where you're chasing after people and you're perceived to be a pursuer. And that demeans you and diminishes you in the marketplace. So think about it this way: if the person you love most in the world needed to have the most complicated form of neurosurgery, would you be most inclined to hire a neurosurgeon that is harassing you all the time, trying to get business from you? Or would you prefer to find the neurosurgeon that other neurosurgeons send their loved ones to when they need that type of surgery, and that person is really busy and really effective, and quite frankly, the biggest struggle is how do they manage their time and balance their life, not how do they get clients? That's probably going to be a much more attractive surgeon for you to go to. So the same thing in whatever business you're in, how do you position yourself to attract clients and connect with them rather than chase them? So again, if we had this, this wonderful meeting where all these people were present, we would find all kinds of levels of effectiveness in the room. If you want to use a continuum with 0 in the middle, integers -1 through -5 to the left, and positive numbers +1 to +5 on the right, then clearly you want a client attraction system that is operating at a +4, +5, +5+ would even be better. But the reality of it is, if you're chasing after clients, you're operating at best at a 0 or a -1, -2. The more you chase, the less you get. The more you attract, the more you win. So let's move to this next point, which is, what are the new ways in which you would like to connect with A-level clients? And again, I don't know what your definition of an A-level client is, but once you know with absolute clarity what that is, and it might be more than one market segment, once you understand exactly what you want, who you want to connect with, then you can start thinking creatively about what would be some of the new ways that you could begin connecting. So again, if we're in this meeting that we're talking about, this luncheon, we might find that one of the people you're networking with has got a great methodology that they're using. They're happy to share it with you, but it's never come up before, and they never thought to share it with you, or they're busy and you're busy and no one really got around to it. So again, if we can move beyond the networking concept, the loose affiliation with a lack of discipline and lacking the necessary degree of clarity, and move instead into a strategic alliance model where we have clarity, we have alignment, then the whole world starts to change and all kinds of opportunities show up, such as new ways to connect with clients that other people are successful with that you never thought of. Here's another point that's really critical. What is your ideal introduction to boost your credibility before you even meet my clients? So if you say to me, Bruce, I want to meet your best clients, I'm going to have a couple of questions for you. Number one, I want to know, why would my clients want to meet you? So we're back to my first bullet point here this evening. So just to refresh your memory as to what that was, from a client's perspective, what matters most about your business? That was my first bullet point. So I need to know that if you're asking me to meet my clients, why do my clients want to meet you? What are you going to do that's so special for them that is either underserved today or isn't being served at all today? I want to know, what is your ideal introduction? How do you want me to introduce them? Do you want me to give a verbal introduction? Do you want me to send them a written introduction? Do you want me to send them a video? What do you have in mind? What's your ideal way of being introduced? And I'm hoping that what I'm going to get from you, and by the way, I almost never get this from anybody, is a really powerful, brilliant introduction that boosts your credibility before you ever actually physically meet the client or have the telephone interview to meet the client. So I'm going to give you an example. I have a friend named Kathy Adams, and she is one of the one of America's top experts on estate planning, life insurance-related matters, special needs trust, those kinds of topics. And she wrote a book which is essentially the Bible for that industry. It has sold millions of copies, and every X number of years she has to rewrite it because of tax code changes and tax court rulings and that sort of thing. And I guess she's now waiting till what happens in the next presidential election before she decides to update it. So I think it's no longer in print. But literally, it's a brilliant book. So what I do when I'm talking to a client is I'll tell them about Kathy. I'll introduce her pretty much the way I just did right now, and I'll actually send them a copy of Kathy's book. So before Kathy has a conversation with them, they've already received a copy of her book, and I've already highlighted with Post-it notes, a couple of different chapters that I think the client ought to read before they have the conference call with Kathy. So I'm reducing and shortening and speeding the due diligence process for my client in terms of advisor selection. And I'm also helping Kathy not waste her time by talking to people that aren't really interested in moving forward. So by reading her writings, they have the ability to self-determine or self-select why this is or isn't a good fit for them. And it helps Kathy feel confident that her time and energy isn't being wasted with somebody who's going to talk to her, pick her brain for great ideas, and then call up their nephew and make the acquisition of insurance through the nephew, leaving Kathy out of the loop after she puts forth all the intellectual property and wisdom. So I want to know what the ideal introduction is. I want it in writing. At the very least, I want it in writing. So we go back to that workbook that I'm offering for free on how to create your dynamic message. And that message can be used as the perfect introduction. So at the very least, you would want to have that for every single person that you intend to do significant amounts of business with. So moving on to the next point, begin with clarity about who and what you do and why and how it matters to A-level clients. So begin with clarity about who you are and what you do. That's what it should say. Begin with clarity about who you are and what you do and why it matters to A-level clients. I come back to that. I started with that at the beginning, and I'm just going to stay on that point. You've got to have clarity. Everybody's got to have clarity. Adults should have clarity about that. A-level players absolutely should have clarity about that. I fully expect C-level players to be totally ambiguous and in a fog. And that is reflective of sort of where C-level players sort of exist. And they sort of relish in the ambiguity, and given an opportunity to replace ambiguity with clarity, they prefer the ambiguity because it's less accountable and it's easier. And besides, they're making a living right now anyway, so why push themselves? So it's one of the points of distinction between A, B, and C-level providers. Alignment is the key. This is about when you're working to put a strategic alliance together, it is almost never going to be with your friends or your brother-in-law or your nephew or your cousin or your uncle. You'd like it to be with them because you really like them or you love them and you think in this fantasy world they're going to be the best strategic allies. And they almost never are. It's so rare that it works out that way. I insist when I'm mentoring people on this process that we always create a solid list of candidates, and we take every candidate through exactly the same due diligence process, and we narrow the field based on the findings of the due diligence process. We remove the emotion and we focus on the science in terms of looking for the alignment there. Now, I want philosophical alignment. I want a whole being approach to this. So I do want philosophical alignment. I want alignment on morality and integrity and those kinds of issues. But I don't want to focus on that initially. I want to focus on the science because those other issues can be wrapped up in emotion. The analytical scientific aspect is far less emotional or even non-emotional, and that's what we need in order to make clearer decisions rather than just picking our relatives. So what is the alignment, and how does that look? The most effective, efficient, productive, and safe strategic alliances are built upon the foundation of alignment. Now, I've introduced the word safe a second or third time this evening. It doesn't serve your purpose to get into relationships with people who are going to get you sued. And it doesn't serve their purpose to bring you into a relationship with them if you're going to get them sued. So safety is absolutely critical here. You've got to make sure that what you're doing has the necessary controls, the discipline, the accountability, so that there is a very high level of safety for all of the participants. That's one of the points of alignment. Alignment in each of these key areas is essential. Philosophy and vision, number one. Number two, integrity with clients and with each other. And by definition, by the way, by written definition, all of this in writing. If it isn't in writing, it isn't a strategic alliance. If it isn't in writing, I don't know how it's strategic. If you can't articulate it in writing, it's just nebulous, ambiguous muck. And until you can put it, until you have the necessary clarity, you can't put it in writing. So we come back to the whole clarity issue. Item number three is desired clientele. In writing, what does an A-level client actually look like? And what market segments are you going to find them in? So I'll give you an example. When I look at Equinicity Resources, who are the key markets that we serve? We serve entrepreneurs, investors, and top advisors. That's who we serve. We focus on A-level discerning markets with people that have sort of those issues in their lives. They're entrepreneurs, they're investors, and they're already top advisors, and they're trying to push above and beyond any of their competitors. So if somebody comes to me and says, hey, we've got a group of, this actually happened to me, a big discount tax return company approached me years ago, and they said, we want to get all of our representatives licensed in securities so they can sell IRAs when they're sitting there doing the interviews for the tax returns. We want to be able to sell them IRAs with mutual funds in them and or annuities in them, and so we can generate commissions. So we're going to get them licensed in securities and licensed in life insurance, and we'd like you to come train them in how to interact with and connect with the clients. And I said to them, well, I'm really sorry, I'm not going to really be able to help you. I really, that's not my market, and I don't have the skill sets to provide that kind of training. So as politely as I possibly could, I tried to extricate myself from that conversation. I am not the right fit for that market. That market is not the right fit for me, and it would drive me nuts to try to do business with people that are operating at a very beginning learning level. And so if you, as Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true, once you really know who you are and what you want, then you're going to be more likely to have the discernment to be able to know when to say no to something. A big part of being wise in business is saying no to a whole series of things that just isn't the right fit for you. So we come back to that whole idea of clarity once again. Item number 4 is the client engagement process. What is the client engagement process going to be? It needs to be in writing. How are we going to follow it? How do we implement it? Item number 5 is following through with those clients. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that my friend Bob Davies calls me up, and he does coaching. He's one of our faculty members, and he's a very successful and brilliant author. And he says, Bruce, I've got this organization, and they need help in the following list of things. Can you help them? And so we'll talk to Bob about it. Let's say that it looks like it's worth exploring. So we have a conference call with the principals of that organization, and it goes well. And they say, well, what are the next steps? Well, not only are we going to discuss the next steps verbally, but one of the ways I'm going to follow through with Bob and with the client is I'm going to put together a memo, and I'm going to send it to each of them with my understanding of what the next steps are. And if I've forgotten anything or I've left anything out, please let me know. In a lot of cases, people just drop that ball and they say, well, I was waiting for Bob to follow up. And the thing that's so amazing to me is it's so easy to follow up and follow through. So what if you just had, in part of your strategic alliance, a written pro forma of what it is that you would do and how you would do it with regard to all of these points, following through. What about problem solving? What do we do when a problem comes up? And what do we do when an opportunity comes up? I didn't really list that one, but geez, on the other side of the problem, there's often an opportunity. If you look at it as a two-sided coin, it presents itself many times as a problem, but really smart, experienced people might be able to take that problem and turn it into an opportunity and do something really productive with it. Sometimes it's just a problem, and you really just have to come in and do what you can to save the situation. Strategic marketing, again, in writing. If it's not in writing, it's probably because you don't have clarity. Things that you have clarity about are pretty easy to commit to writing. Things that you don't have clarity about, they're harder to put into writing. Or what you put in writing looks like gibberish to you the next day when you review it. You say, what in the world was I thinking? Item number 8, tactical execution. How does that look in writing? How are we going to execute? And this is on everything, the client engagement process, the marketing plan, and every single point of contact, whatever it is we're going to do, we want to have clarity, and we want to be able to have the execution detailed in writing. One of the challenges that we face as people who want to become more successful and maintain or sustain high levels of success and effectiveness is this. We are surrounded by a universe of people who thrive on ambiguity. Now, they're not thriving financially necessarily. They're not thriving in terms of success because they're living in ambiguity. But that's where they're comfortable. That's where they want to be. So what happens much of the time is we'll say to them, let's say somebody on our own staff or to one of our strategic allies agrees to do something within a certain time frame. If we don't have clarity and we don't have things in writing, what we end up with is we're in a state of ambiguity. So you think when you spoke to Tom and Jennifer that they were going to have a particular proposal for a client available to you or a written solution for a client available by Friday noon of this week. So this was 2 weeks ago. They committed to it. They said they could do it. And you said to them, and if you have any problems or challenges or you get stuck anywhere, let me know right away and I'll be happy to help you. You haven't heard from them. It's Wednesday. You're getting ready to close the office down. So you think, you know what, I'm going to send them a little email and say, hey, how's that coming? And remember that it's due on Friday at noon. And much of the time, people are actually going to say to you, I didn't know you wanted it then. Or how about this one? What do you mean you wanted me to do it? I don't remember saying I was going to be the one to do that. I mean, I do remember you talking about this theoretically in a meeting, but I don't remember ever committing and agreeing to do it. So that's the kind of stuff that happens when we allow ambiguity into a relationship or into an organization. Clarity is about removing this doubt, this uncertainty, and replacing it with a sense of certainty. And one of the ways we do that is use written documents. So, for example, in the staff meeting, everybody would get a list of to-do items, and it would be clearly articulated in that written document that Tom and Jennifer agreed to do such and such by Friday, and if they get stuck or they have any questions, they're supposed to call Bruce. And if that's in writing, that makes it a lot easier. Now, as a person who wants to be really effective in my leadership, I'm not going to wait until Wednesday of this week to remind them. I want to make sure that on my calendar I have a reminder that says to me to follow up with Tom and Jennifer and make sure that they're on course and see if they need any help with anything. And these are the kinds of things that you can do with everybody that you're doing business with. And you know, my own business, when I'm acting as a mentor or a facilitator for a client on a significant point of transformation, and usually, let's just say that it would be the sale of a privately owned company, I'm helping the client by interacting with the client's psychologist, the marriage counselor, the family counselor. I'm working with members of the management team. I'm working with the investment bankers. I'm working with the M&A lawyers. I'm working with the corporate lawyers. I'm working with the accountants. I'm working with the chief financial officer. There's a whole bunch of moving parts and different personalities and and individuals that have personal needs and interests and things that they are focused on. So it's a lot of moving parts, and I cannot tolerate ambiguity in all of that. I've got to make sure that somebody, someplace, even if that has to be me, is responsible for maintaining the vision with great clarity and making sure that people are accountable and on time with the things that they've agreed to do. So tactical execution in writing, absolutely critical. Point number 9, flexibility on strategies, tactics, and tools, but not on principles or philosophy. So if you talk to any successful basketball coach or any successful general or any successful CEO, they will tell you that they have changed strategies, tactics, and tools more times than they could count or remember. The main thing is to not change the vision. So, for example, we want to win. That would be, I guess, in basketball, that would be the vision. We want to win. And in business, we want to generate X amount of cash flow, and we want to make sure that our expenses and so forth are managed so that our EBITDA is this amount and escalates from here to here on a quarterly or annual basis. So that would be part of the whole, the goals section of the strategic plan for a business. So we're really probably not going to alter the vision or the goals very much, but we can certainly be very flexible in terms of strategies, tactics, and tools. We don't want to be flexible on our principles of integrity, as an example, or our basic fundamental philosophies of things like win-win, or in this case, all the members of the professional team win and the clients win, and everybody wins at a level that is reasonable and within the realm of, certainly within the realm of reasonableness, and is equitable for all of the parties involved. Number 10, which tools to apply, how and when to apply them. Well, I'll give you an example. One of the tools that we use is postcards. It's a physical, tangible tool. So this morning, my partner Jim Blakemore and I delivered a couple hundred postcards to the AM and AA for them to distribute to people here at this conference. I guess just 300 people here, so we get 300 postcards, whatever it is. But we've also shipped a couple hundred of these postcards to their corporate offices, so by the time they get back to work on Monday, they will have another stack of postcards which they can mail out to their database. Electronically speaking, our digital marketing director, Taruni Tan, she will take the electronic version of those postcards and the electronic version of the one-page event announcements and so forth that we're doing with our strategic allies, thus empowering them to electronically distribute the information about upcoming events, whether it's a webinar, whether it's a one-day training event or something to that effect. So whatever it is that we're doing, we're making it easier for the people around us to succeed by giving them the tools which they need early, not at the last minute, but early. And then there's an agreed to written systematic action plan. This is what we're going to do. This is in writing. This is how we're going to do it. And everybody agrees to it. And then we become accountable because when we have a weekly conference call with the strategic allies, we talk about what it is specifically that everyone was doing and did they get it done, and if not, what can we do to help them to get it done, tomorrow. So that's another example of utilizing a more disciplined and focused approach in order to succeed. Now we've got some upcoming events which all of you are invited to. There's the Business Innovation 2012 Conference, Growing Your Business in Turbulent Times, March 15th, 2012 in Los Angeles, California. It's right over by LA International Airport at the Sheraton. Then we've got a Macro Strategic Planning Certification and Licensing course. Phase 1 is in June 2012. It's going to be in San Diego. And Phase 2, I think, will be in Vail, Colorado. We haven't put the final touches on that yet. You're certainly all invited to attend, and the pricing and for the tuition and all the other details, if it isn't currently available on the website, it will be available very shortly. So you may want to block those dates off. I will say this, Phase 1 Macro Strategic Planning Certification course is a 2-day event in June, and then it will be a 3-day event in September. You are invited to connect with us. Here is our contact information, our website, the Twitter, if you're interested in getting my abbreviated rants on Twitter, and my email, bwright@equinicity.com. Toll-free phone number, 855-809-9006. The Texas number is 432-618-1573, and the California number is 805-527-7516. Now, I'm told that you can enter questions by typing them in. And Jim, I want to make sure I can pull that up on here. So if any of you have any questions, please go ahead and type them in for me, and I shall answer those as quickly as I can. The first question is, are these recorded, and previous ones, how do I get access? That is a very good question. So they are posted. They're available on the Equinicity website. I think it takes us about 48 hours or so before these are posted. So we've done several, and they are available on our website, www.equinicity.com. And I believe they're also available as podcasts, Jim. Is that correct?
I don't believe we've done that yet,
but
we'll get that in the mail.
But we will do that. We'll get them as podcasts as well. So Steve says I'm sounding good. Thank you, Steve. That's really nice of you. It's my my powerful masculine voice that people like so much. Are there any technical questions? Anybody want to know how to implement anything, or any details that you would like to know more about? All right then, so what we'll do is we'll call it an evening. I want you all to know that I greatly appreciate your time and attention, your participation today, and I really look forward to connecting with you in the future. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to email me at bwright@equinicity.com. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.